So, regardless of what storms come our way, what's happening on the right, what's happening on the left, what's happening on my, behind me, manifest it. Stay focused on Him. Stay focused on His word, what's written, because though it tarry, what's the word? What's the word? Though it tarry, it shall come. It shall come to pass. It shall happen. But I stayed focused on His word and His promises for my life.
I stand for what you stand for. I'm at your door like the landlord. I can see the future, yeah, I fast forward. I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me, I'm in rare form. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid. Small changes make
And one. All right, Felicia, let's jump right into it. Your motto is, hey, Chica, you can have
Right?
it, plan for it, God promise. That middle part, plan for it, is where a lot of church folks get stuck at.
Mm,
So talk to us. Talk to us about your journey. Where did you see the gap between people believing in God's promise and actually preparing for it?
Okay, wow, that's a great segue to get started into this. I had a journey whereas I felt stuck, right? At first, I felt like I had it all together. And for 3 years, I had to live with one of my friends. And one of those years, that first year, I was depressed. I felt stuck. I went from working my 9 to 5 job to getting off and just laying around doing absolutely nothing. Right. And I had to have a talk with myself. I said, I know I have a purpose. I know you sent me here. I know you said I was delayed, but not denied. I said, so I'm going to get out here and I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to find out what my purpose is. I said, to Jesus, and I was talking to him just like I'm talking to you. I said, I need energy and I need to lose my stomach. Right. So, as I continued on, I was on Instagram and I was looking for something. I was looking for something for energy. And I ran across this lady by the name of Stormy Wellington. She was on her Instagram, 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and she was on there consistently every morning, making her coffee, taking these two supplements, opening up the capsules and pouring the contents into her coffee. The coffee was Delgado mushroom coffee. The supplement was NRG for energy. She said the NRG, it was for energy. It will help you focus and it will give you clarity. I said, I need it. I said, but I'm going to continue to listen. So I listened to her, Marcus, for about 3 more weeks because not only was she making her morning coffee, but she was motivating her audience at the same time. And I was inspired, I was hooked, When I didn't see her on, I was searching, where is Coach Stormy? Where is she? So I was hooked. So needless to say, I made a decision. I said, okay, if I don't get anything else, I'm going to go get the NRG because I need that. And I clicked the link in her bio. I ordered 3 products, but not only did I order the products I needed, I also decided to join the organization, the company, Total Life Changes. And when I did that, I lost weight within I started seeing results within 3 weeks, but I really saw results within 3 months, right? And so I began to gain my confidence back. I began to feel like the old Felicia, right? Chica was back. I lost over 52 pounds. And with network marketing, they also have personal development. And I needed to be, developed. And I thought I was joining for one reason, but really I was there for that personal development. I needed that. And after that, she has a great, phenomenal platform. She's always pouring into you. She's always bringing the same, like mentors and coaches that coached her to millions of dollars. And through that, I just learned so much. And her best friend and her did a masterclass, a digital marketing masterclass. And that's where I wrote my first book. Remember, I said I was stuck, but
Yeah.
Jesus was showing me, hey, girl, you're not stuck. So I wrote my first book. I said, that felt good. Let me give them something to go alongside this book. I created my first daily journal called Chica God Promise. And then I said, I need to do something else. And so I created a how to manifest it work guide. So through that whole process, Jesus just showed me that I wasn't stuck, that, you got some good stuff within you. I just need to bring it out. But I wanted to be in Sarasota, Florida with my mom because my mom and we had planned to relocate to Sarasota, Florida. And I helped my mom relocate here. Well, I called myself relocating here with her as well at that time. However, when I got here, my job said there's no appetite for remote working. I was crushed. So I had to abruptly find a place to live. And that's how I ended up living with my friend for 3 years. And that's when I was depressed for, that year. But, some good stuff came out of those 3 years, a book, a daily journal, and a work guide, and a nonprofit organization, Chica God Promise.
And I just feel like the inspiration just flow. I got so much I want to, hit on, like, from what you just shared with me. It's no secrets what God can do. Um, and respectfully, woman of God, you look amazing. Um,
Thank you.
for those who are listening, make sure you check out the video. Um, I also want to say that God will, put people in the strangest places for you to draw what you need from. Like, the answers that you're seeking from God. They can come through a
Hmm.
person, and then it can start a whole domino effect. And that's what I seen kind of happen with you. You you was forged in the midst of all of that. You was forged. You were able to, like, get some things, going for, you've been in the trenches from the YMCA to your own nonprofit. You've seen the need firsthand. Was there a moment that you realized that just serving and inspiring wasn't enough, that you had to equip women with practical tools like the journals and the planners to actually build the life God promised them?
Like, I have been equipped my entire life to serve, right? But it's just now, during this season, that I realize that I'm very sure of my calling, right? I was serving at the YMCA. That's where, I told you I discovered, I was being called Chica. Then a few years later, I started my own nonprofit organization called Far Above Rubies. That was for women, domestic violence, still serving, right? In the midst of all of that, I helped start like 3 churches, still serving, right? And during some of these seasons, Marcus, I was in the valley, but nobody knew it. But I
Yeah.
showed up. I showed
Mhm.
up as if I had it all together. No, I was like showing up like I had it all together. But when I returned home, those were my lowest moments. But I still had hope because I knew that I was here for a reason. I knew why I was being tested. I was being tested because I told Jesus one day, I said, I want to be like Kim Kardashian, but for you, not for the fame, the influence. Because can you imagine serving or having a platform of over 355 million people and they're getting healing, they're reclaiming their voice, they're reclaiming their identity, they're being given hope, love, joy. Can you imagine?
That's so much better than Kim Kardashian,
But I had to be tested. Do you really want it? Do you really want that platform?
right? Yeah, that's so real. That is beyond real. It's a difference between a dream and a blueprint. It sounds like you have to get real with yourself too before you could get real with, like, the people. that you were gonna be serving and, continuing to serve. What was a promise God made you, you know, made to you and planned for even when it looked impossible?
The promises, he speaks to you through, your dreams and your visions and his word, right? By reading the word, that's how he communicates with us, right? So he deals with me a lot with the dreams, right?
Mhm.
So by having the dreams, he always show you the beginning and the end, but he never shows you what happens in between that process, right? So what has kept me hopeful and contending for the faith, for the dreams? So Jesus, I know you showed me this. And I said, and I know your word says this. This is the confidence that I have, right? I know these are your promises. This is your word. And I know you're not slack concerning your promises, and you're not a liar, and you are a rewarder of those that diligently seek me. So, I began to, not only stand on those promises, but I began to, believe in them and, put all my faith and trust in because I had no other choice. I didn't have a choice, So that's what, kept me putting one foot in front of the other is his promises and the dreams he showed me for my life.
I'd like to dig into that further because people don't realize that this is where true transformation happens, and that middle part, we want to know what that middle part is. We know what the end could look like, and we know what the beginning. well, well, that speaks for itself. But
Right.
well, God does things in secret, and that's where the transformation happens. So your book, it's called Chica's God Promise, manifested. Break down that process for us. What does a faith-filled plan actually look like? Is it a 5 year? Is it a vision board with scriptures? We want to know the how.
So the book, Chica God Promise, manifested, right? It's simple. Okay. I knew that he promised me something. Knew that he promised me these things. So regardless of what storms come our way, what's happening on the right, what's happening on the left, what's happening on my, behind me, manifest it. Stay focused on him. Stay focused on his word, what's written, because though it tarry, what's the word? What's the word? Though it tarry, it shall come. It shall come to pass. It shall happen. But I've stayed focused on his word and his promises for my life. And I'm still, standing on his word and his promises. And that's basically in simple format what my book is about. How I stay focused. What promises I use towards my journey.
Yeah, so I gotta ask you this because we see this all over social media.
Mhm.
There's a lot of chatter online about toxic positivity. I like to say that, like, people get offended by my gospel thirst traps. So,
I
you
love
know, so yeah, but people think it's prosperity gospel. How does that align with your message? You can have it all to avoid those actual traps. What does the gritty work, potential for struggle fit in to actually manifest in the promise from God?
Man, I think we make it hard. You have to encourage yourself, but most importantly, your belief and your faith is everything.
Yes.
Is everything. You have to believe. And if I'm believing for something, I'm I'm standing on that. I'm not gonna look, okay, yeah, okay, let me give you an example. I'm believing to be a multi-millionaire, but right now the account says negative zero, right? That's not going to deter me from, my belief. I'm believing that the millions are already in the bank. If you ask, my account may say negative, whatever, whatever, but in my mind and in my focus, I'm already a multimillionaire already. So it's
That's
your
the word.
beliefs. Yeah, and regarding your healing. You may have cancer or you may be sick or whatever, but the words say you were already healed, already. So that's the kind of belief that you have to have, and that's the kind of belief and faith that I had to learn.
It's definitely not about avoiding the storm. It's about building that ark before it rains, and that's what I hear so much of, like happening, and that structure of connecting the promise with the desires of our heart, and I would say too, just what God intended in
Mhm.
the first place. So for the women out there or the woman out there listening who feels that call, that promise, but she may be overwhelmed by like the how, what is the very first, most simple, plainest step she can take today after the show?
The woman that's wanting to know how to get started, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so let's put it this way, there's a lot of women out there, they feel overwhelmed and they don't have the how, so they got to start with the most simple planning step before they can even take action. How do they do that?
And this is how I did it. I had to encourage myself, but first I had to know that, there was a bigger plan for me. That's where I started at. I knew there was more for me. I knew that I couldn't just lay there. I knew that that was not God' plan for my life. I knew that there was greatness inside of me. So that's where it started at for me. So once I knew that there was more for me and greater for me, that's when I said, okay, let me get up and do something. Let me do something first. Because I knew once I got out there and I did something, I knew once I made that one step, he'll come along, he'll add on to it, right? And he will give the increase. But I initially had to learn to do it and not just, sit there and have a pity party for myself. So I would say, know your worth, encourage yourself, pour into yourself. There is greatness inside of you. Discover it and then add unto that. And most importantly, know God's promises for your life. Know who he says you are. And when you know who he says you are, you're unstoppable.
That's also powerful. For those who haven't yet to explore your book and digital tools, they practical. They the practical application of what you just spoke in, and so much more. Where do they find your products and services at?
My books, Chica God Promise, Manifested, that's on Amazon. That's on all of your, major outlets. It's also, you can get it from my personal website, FeliciaMcCaskill.com, and my nonprofit organization. If you are interested in being a part of, organization where we empower women to become greater and to, be impactful within their communities. You can check the nonprofit out at chicagodpromise.com. And I also have a coaching program for women, and it's called I Am Becoming Her Now.
I love that you're not just giving people the fish. You're actually out here teaching them how to build a whole fishing enterprise. I'm intrigued now. I'm very intrigued working on something you describe as a luxurious, life-changing experience for women worldwide. So without giving it away, I know you don't want to give it away, and I
Mhm.
don't want to give it away either. What is the transformation you hope women walk away with after an experience like that? What promises are you helping them plan?
I like to see women live their best, live their best purpose lives through Jesus. Know that he's real and know that his words are still true and alive this day. But I would like to give them that hope within Jesus. And the rest, wow.
That sounds next level right there, so
Wow.
it's next level. This community you build in Chica God Promise, it is the foundation for it all. What role does the community play in staying the course when the plan gets hit with like the real world chaos and all of these different attacks from the enemy?
When we come together, because most people that's within our community, you know, when one is going through a storm or when one is going through weakness, you have Mary Sue over here who's, at her best, she's thriving. So she can pour into this one over here. And that's the type of community that we have. That, we can always lean on each other to, offer that strength, that hope, and help you become resilient and help you become that woman that God has created you to be. Because there is greatness in each and every one of us. We all have something. And your purpose, I can't carry that out. You can't carry out my purpose. You can only uniquely carry out your purpose and the reason God planted you here on this earth. So that's why we're all here to help each other, you know, with carrying out that plan and that purpose for our individual lives.
Okay. So last question,
Mhm.
here's the last question coming right at you. I want to make it a good one too. uh, for the woman who's waiting, they praying, and they're serving for years and years on and feel like the promise is just collecting that dust. What's your final, most powerful word of activation for her right now?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Do you know how long it's been since I prayed the prayer? Jesus, I want to be like you, be like Kim Kardashian, but for you, can I tell you it's been over 10 years ago? Let's see, I lived in Charlotte for 13 years, and that's when I initially prayed the prayer. But I had that middle part, that middle part, you don't know. He shows you the end, but you don't know what you're going to go through to get right here. But when you get right here, you are well equipped and it's well worth it. So I don't care when you prayed the prayer, don't give up. Every day, water the seed, and live as if you're already in the end, in that dream, in that goal. But don't give up. Don't give up. That's faith.
So, I'm really like fired up, and this conversation just shows that you don't know how close you're getting to the end. You just go through the process.
Mhm.
Okay, you don't worry how far along you are. The end is coming. There's an end to every storm. It's a rainbow at the end of every storm. And I just want to say Joyce Meyer, Felisha McCaskill is coming.
Receive it. I receive
Yeah.
it.
So you giving us permission today to be both spiritual and strategic, to be dreamers and doers, and we thank you so much for your spirit and your wisdom today.
Thank you for the opportunity. And God bless you, Marcus, and God bless your platform. And to everyone who's listening to this, God bless you. And you can do it.
Absolutely. Now let me talk directly to the family out there, Transform You family. So if this conversation at all has activated something in you, let us know. Hit that like button, subscribe for more gritty faith truths, and comment below with one thing you are going to start planning for this week. And you better share this episode with another chica who needs to hear it. And remember, we're here to help you transform. If you want to build a platform, this is the place for it, and so much more. But make sure you get in touch with my new dear friend and sister in Christ, Felicia. She has the recipe that comes straight from heaven. So many blessings, peace, and lots of love. We're out.
Jesus.
Hey there. If you enjoyed this particular episode and you want to check out more of my episodes, head over to www.marcus-hart.com/podcast, and you'll find more exclusive podcasts and other cool things there.